Hey, I'm Trinity Gerome, and I'm interviewing my aunt. What is your name?
Leanne Mueller.
Where are you from?
Australia.
What part of Australia?
I grew up in Waikerie, South Australia, which is northeast of Adelaide, which is the capital of South Australia.
When were you born?
I was born in 1968.
Why did you come to America?
I came here to marry your uncle.
When did you come here?
It was in 1992.
How long did it take to get from Australia to California?
It took the flight from Sydney to actually LA was 14 and a half hours. And then it was another hour to the San Francisco airport.
Is there only one airport in Australia?
The main airport that you would fly internationally from is Sydney.
What are the conditions like in the country where you left?
Where I grew up, it was a hot climate, very similar to California or probably the Los Angeles area.
Were there any difficult times when you left Australia?
No, it's very similar to the United States, but I grew up in a rural setting, so it's a lot different to the city.
Do you have any family in Australia?
Yes, my parents and my sisters and their families live there still.
Would you want your family to move out here?
No, I would like them to stay in Australia because they're established, but I like to visit.
Would you want, are there any foods different in Australia?
Yeah, we mainly eat lamb, not beef, and there's a few favorite signature dishes that Australians have. The Australian meat pie, and I like a pastry called pasty, which is vegetables and meat in a pastry.
What's the difference between Australia while you grew up and now how you're living in California?
Where I grew up, being rural, we lived on one of the longest rivers in Australia, and it was a citrus growing area. There was also wineries and wheat growing, so it's really different comparing being in a country setting and then coming to the city here in America, being a lot more people and then also a lot more traffic, and the freeways were really big and interesting to have to get used to.
Do you visit Australia often?
I've been able to fly back there 4 times since being here.
Does it feel different going back?
No, it's very much the same, and I love to see my family when we go back.
If you can go back and change one moment about the time since you came here, what would it be?
I think it would be that I would have bought another piece of land in Australia, so I had 2 homes, one here and one in Australia.
Was the education different when you came here?
Comparing from my children, they are in larger schools where I only had a high school of about 400 or 500 students, and my kids' high schools are 2,000 or 3,000 kids. So yeah, it's a lot different, a lot more activities.
Any different extracurricular activities?
We used to play some sports that we don't have here in America, and that would be netball and cricket.
What's netball?
Netball is very similar to basketball, but you don't dribble and you don't run with the ball. You actually pass and throw it into a hoop with no backboard.
Were you able to find employment when you came to America?
Yeah, I was lucky to work at a mall at a little pet store, and then after about a year I got to go to a Petco and worked there for 9 years, and then I've been able to then go to Home Depot, and I've worked there 11 years.
Is it different to find employment in Australia?
No, it's very similar. You have all the same opportunities to go to college, and you can do different trades or like retails. So it's very much the same than here.
Anything else you would like to add?
I can, since we were talking about employment, I can say that here in America, everyone works a lot longer. In Australia, you get to have like 4 weeks of vacation every year. And I think I still, sometimes getting used to all the extra traffic, and but I really enjoy the city. I love San Francisco. It's a really neat place to get to experience.
That's what her parents do for a living.
What does your parents do for a living?
My father, he became an electrician, or actually a technician, worked on televisions and radio, and has had a business, and used to have a partner, and now he works on his own for his own electrical business. And my mom helps him out as a secretary.
Oh, that's nice.
And my mom actually used to work on a riverboat when she was a teenager. That was one of her jobs that she had. And I can tell you about my grandparents. My grandparents had a citrus and also fruit tree where they would have oranges and apricots. And then my other grandfather had a number of different jobs. He used to have a dairy. He also raised chickens, and he also had beehives. So he had numerous jobs. But I found that was really interesting to know about my grandparents. That was really cool, growing up with them.
Did you work when you were in Australia?
Yeah, my first job, I worked at a car dealership. And I helped customers. First I did car detailing, and then I worked my way into spare parts and helped customers buy spare parts.
How much does the houses cost in Australia compared to houses in America?
Where I grew up, it's very different. I would compare to Sydney area prices being very similar to the Bay Area prices. Where I grew up, the houses not so expensive. It's probably something that's comparable to out in the rural areas of America. My parents now live in a coastal town, and the prices are a little more than where I grew up, but not as much as the Bay Area.
Is there crime in Australia?
Is there a lot of crime in Australia?
I think where I grew up, no, but I think in the cities, sure, it's everywhere.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yay!
See, that's Trinity Gerome for.
I'm Trinity Gerome.
I'm Leanne Mueller.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.